Good morning, Proho. Welcome, episode number 41, and I am happy to be back. We've got some high production in the background there. I got my neon sign up, trying to make things nice for everyone. This morning, I received a very heartfelt personal message that I want to share with you because I think it would be a good topic for us to open up with. This is a problem that is common to a lot of you, especially young men. Now, I understand the difficulties of the dating market currently for the young men in this group. I absolutely do, even though most people do not. And that shows from the just look at when we broach these topics of the difficulties and the problems with modern women and modern feminism, just look at the comments of folks that are coming in there that still think things are the way they were when they were children or younger or dating. One of the big problems of you guys is what you're doing is that you're making decisions, you're reacting out of fear. Now, when you're in a position like that, when you're in a weakened position, it's very difficult to be objective and to make the right decision. A lot of dudes, because of the scarcity in the dating market, the difficulty of finding someone, the first woman that pays attention to you, you tend to glom onto that and try to lock it down because you're operating out of fear. The mindset is, well, if I don't lock this up, I may not have another chance of it. And you're putting yourself in a very difficult position, a position of weakness. What you don't understand and what I'm here to share with you is that things change. In your situation, what you're dealing with now, it looks so permanent to you when you're of a younger age, but I assure you it is not. Your life is going to change very drastically. So I want you to have all of the information before you make one of the most important decisions in your life. Make sure you understand that you want to be negotiating, you want to be making this decision out of power, not out of desperation. So what do I mean? Imagine this. There's a motorcycle on Facebook Marketplace. You've been saving for it. You've got the money in hand. It's $5,000. You've got $5,000, right? You're going to go there and you're going to try to negotiate. Maybe you can get a few $100 down, enough to pay for a new helmet, right? That would be a win-win. That's kind of the way we do it in this country. You go there, you've got the cash, you have power to negotiate, and then all of a sudden, right after you pull up, there's another dude pull up behind you that he wants it as well. How much power do you have in this negotiation? Well, not very much. It comes down to first there, first serve, right? You're going to pay the man the $5,000, and there is no negotiation because you are in a position of weakness. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. I received a personal message here. I'm not going to divulge names, but this really speaks to a situation that a lot of folks are dealing with when it comes to making a decision. And this is so, I know there's nothing worse than someone reading online, especially me, but I'm going to skim through it. It's important to get the details, and then we can discuss this because I want to speak to it because it's going to be something that's important to a lot of us here. I'm going to refer to this young man as N. N is 25 years old, about to turn 20. He's 24, he's about to turn 25. He's making $120K a year at 25. Not too shabby, is it? Well, what's he doing? Well, he's a tradesman. Obviously, he's got a good trade. I've been telling you guys that the trades that have paid in the past that have only paid about half of this much are paying a lot more because of the demand. I would, for most guys, I would go into the trades, a good trade, welding, electrical engineering, electrician, even plumber, those sort of things, you're going to be looking at six-figure incomes. And here this young man is 24 and pulling in 120 G's. Do you know what percentage that puts him of American men, if we're talking about income? That puts him in the top 11% at 25, almost not even, 24 years old. How many of you would be happy with 125K a year? Not too bad. Can you imagine what you could do as a single man with 125K if you were smart about it and you wanted to establish and build your life, right? So this is the position that he's in. Well, he's dating an older woman, 31. 31. So he lists the pros and the cons, and what he's getting at is he's very skeptical with wanting to build, wanting to have a family, if he should, pop the question, if he should commit to this woman that he's dating that's so much older than him, and she's got some serious baggage that we need to cover. So let's go with the pros first. He says he's considering it because they have some similarities. They both like hiking, biking, they're into paddle boarding. She does the majority of the household chores. Without complaint, she assumes traditional roles, so she seems to be a trad-con woman. They both agree on the moral standings, on hot-button political items, and she cares and has a generous heart. And he just finishes, she cares. Those are the positive things. He's been dating her for a year and a half, and he feels like or I think it was a year and a half, close to 2 years, he's getting to the point where he's got to make a decision, that he's got to either marry her or not. And that's one thing that we have, gentlemen, don't forget. Women control access to sex. Men control access to relationships. And that really is the power position. Now here's the rub, the cons that he lists. Let's recap here. 25 years old, 120K a year, motivated, wants to have a traditional family, wants to have children, wants to do things right. I mean, he's crushing, right? Problem is that she's got some baggage. No, she's not 31, she's 32. 32. So at 32, we talked about this morning, we have a woman that is, I'm going in averages. The thing with the women that chimed in on my video that I put in today, they like to pull out exceptions or rarities or anomalies and present them as if that's just the norm. It's not the norm. It's a child's way of arguing. It's like grabbing onto hope. It's like, well, I understand that I'm going into high-risk pregnancy. I understand that I don't have any eggs left or very few, but I know my grandma 40 years ago had my mom when she was 38 or 40 and everything was fine. So therefore, that's my reality and that's what I'm banking on, so I don't have to get any rush. I mean, come on now. Come on now. We have to look at what the statistics are, and we know 32, when women get into 32, they're down to about 10% of their eggs left. They're on the tail end of their fertility, and they're looking at and they're high-risk pregnancy. If you can even get a woman that old pregnant, there's a high risk of Down syndrome. There's a high risk of all sorts of birth defects, and if you can't, then what you have to look forward to is very, very expensive in vitro fertilization at what? 20, 30, 40 $1,000 a pop, the multiple rounds, right? So that's just the reality of it. If he wants family, if N wants family at that young age, he needs to consider these things. So not only does she have that working against him at 32, going into high-risk pregnancy, she's saddled with $105,000 of student loan debt. How would you like to have that millstone thrown around your neck? Trying to get going, trying to get established. You did everything right. You didn't rack up 100 G's, over 100 G's in student debt loan. Do you think that that's going to be her debt when they get married? We know whose debt that's going to be. It's going to be N's debt. He's going to have to deal with that, even though he didn't do anything about it or didn't have anything to do with incurring it. That follows you around for life. You cannot bankrupt student loan debt, and it's accruing interest the entire time. So strike number one, geriatric pregnancy age, older than him. He wants a family. Strike number two, saddled with 105K of student debt loan. Not looking good so far, is it? She makes 60K a year, and doesn't have a dramatic urgency to pay it off or getting a second job. He has been pressing her about this. Baby, you need to get this taken care of. This is, you got to deal with this. Whatever you have to do. You have to get gazelle intense. You have to get a second job, whatever it takes to knock this thing out. This is your problem. You need to get this. And he says that she's showing no urgency to make that happen. Well, I'm going to go out on a limb here. She knows what his income is. And I think the default position is going to be, if she's shown no urgency, has not made it a priority to him, even though that she knows that he's concerned about that. That's selfish, and that's lazy. She knows that's a problem for him. She probably wants a relationship. She'd probably like to have a ring. Yet she knows this impediment is between this, but she does nothing to remove it. That says a lot to me about character. If she's relying upon you to dump all of this on you and for you to take up that burden, then that's probably the plan, and you'll be the one to do it. Because once you guys are married, once you allow that relationship to happen, women are typically going to slack off on work. She'll look at your income and realize it's not that important, and if she gets pregnant, she's not going to want to work at all. So who do you think is going to have to pay that 100 G's of student loan debt? Strike number 3, right? Next we have another problem. She's not particularly bright. They don't have to quote the good book, they're not equally yoked. I'll tell you, I have dated intelligent women. I'm married to one. I've dated ignorant, stupid women as well. I couldn't deal with it. It's one thing, casual friendship and things, but to dig into the hard job of maintaining a marriage, you're going to ultimately grow weary of that. Constantly having to explain things, not being able to trust her to pull her weight and to run. Let's say you want to start a business, if you're working in the trades, it is vital when you're getting started to have a mate that is equal with you, that can be able to understand, be motivated, can help keep the books. It's a team effort to build this. There comes a time, when you can get it up and running, you get a little bit of money coming in, you can bring someone in to fill those duties. But I assure you, if you're trying to get started, it will take the both of you. So if you're already having an issue with this, that this is an impediment, her ignorance or her intellect is not on the par with yours, and you're not able to have stimulating conversations, you're just not equally yoked. And it's not her fault and it's not your fault. It's just the way that it is. And we have to remember, gentlemen, we control relationships. And we are typically very faithful, very loyal, and I can see it in his words. It tears him up to see all these things, but he realizes, or he feels a sense of obligation to this woman that he spent time with. Now, these are just my opinions. I'm just giving you an outside perspective to look at. I'm not in the fight. You're in the fight with the raw emotions and all these things, and you don't want to let folks down, and it's hard to be objective. But let's look at the cold, hard facts. I'm going to finish up with this. He says, I struggle because I fear that the current landscape, I will never find another loyal woman who cares to take care of me and to do more feminine duties in the house, but I also fear and regret and resent the resentment that could set in for financially setting myself back with her debt and for dealing with her lower intellect and ignorance. I also would personally like to wait a few more years for kids, but her clock is ticking and is already beginning to creep into the risk zone. So he's put himself in a bad position where he is having to make a decision and he's being pressured because of her biological clock, because she's so much older than him. He's not ready, but if he does, he feels like he's going to miss out if he doesn't make this happen right now. You're operating at 24, 25, you're operating at a position of weakness, and you've put yourself in this position and you don't have to do it. The cold, hard facts are this. You ultimately have to, you have to live your life for yourself, and you have to make the best decisions you can. If you want family and you want children and you want the best possible scenario, I wouldn't you can't be getting involved with these older women. You can't be forced. They can't be forcing you to do something before you're good and ready. you're just getting started at 24, 25, you're in the top 11% of men in this country regarding income. That puts you in a very enviable position. I would not lose sight of that. I would not make decisions based on someone else's needs. As cruel and heartless as that may sound, there's just too much to risk. There's too much to risk, and it just doesn't need to happen. And you thinking at being in that top 11% that you are never going to find another person, you're never going to be able to find someone to replace this, that's just not the case. That's just your lack of age speaking right there. You look at things at 24 like they're so permanent when they're not. At 30, you'll look back and you won't even remember this. But I would, from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, and I don't know, let's leave it up to the chat. I'm thinking that this is a bad idea personally for the things that we laid out, if we're just going to look at it logically. I don't think that he should negotiate from a position of weakness because of someone else's pressuring or her time clock. I just don't think that that's a good idea. If you think he should cut it loose, put 7s in the comment. If you think that he should marry this woman with the 100K student loan debt, the advanced years, the geriatric pregnancy, see, I'm trying to push you in a certain direction. Put 0s. 7s for cut it loose, 0s for go ahead and marry this woman. Yeah. He finishes up with, I'm just at a loss, unsure what to do at this point. Any advice you could offer would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for all you do. There you have it. There you have it, and behold, look at the comments. I can tell you, especially those names that you see right there with the green next to them, the middlemen, these are men, this is my brain trust, who I trust for important decisions as well. And I see 7s, 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 7s. You know, the good book tells us that there is safety in a multitude of counselors. And there you have it right there. Again, but what it comes down to ultimately, it's going to be your decision. You'll have to make a decision. But I'll tell you, if you're not even married and you're having this many misgivings, second thoughts, she's too old, she's too in debt, she's obviously unmotivated, she has not, I mean, it's pretty damn selfish if we're going to look at it at what it is, to not make every single effort to bring herself to you in the best possible position where she can be an asset and a benefit to you, not coming with $100,000 of student loan. That right there in itself, beloved, is a deal breaker. She incurred those student loans. She signed the papers. She did that. She's had that at 32. She's been dragging that around behind her for over a decade and done nothing about it. What does that tell you about a person? She wants you to do it. She's looking for an exit plan. She's looking for a man to bail her out. And if you want to be that man, and if you want to get started at a disadvantage, you might as well go sign up for a race and have someone hobble you so that you can't run or put a big burden of weight upon you, because that's what you're taking on when you don't need to. You shouldn't move. You're at fault for this as well. You shouldn't have moved in with her. You shouldn't be living with someone. Should not be cohabitating whatsoever. That's why Proho, I tell you, no cohabitation, no dating single mothers, no dating women if you want children over 30, that's kind of those kind of rules, and you're breaking those rules. You're breaking multiple of those rules right there. But $100,000 in debt, you don't want it, especially as we're entering into. There's so much uncertainty in the economy and such. I'm sorry, life is not fair, but she's also has to take responsibility. She's made decisions. The more I think about it, the more it rubs me the wrong way to carry. She's making $60,000 a year. That's a good income. That's way above the medium average, and she hasn't paid that down. How many pairs of shoes does she have? How many baubles, how much makeup, how many things has she spent money on and just not dealt with this student loan that she's dragging around like a unwanted trailer that she's about to hitch onto you? No. I would maybe look at it differently if she had whittled it down and was actively working, if she was sacrificing, taking the bus, driving a crummy old car, putting every single bit of extra income that she could to take this down. You know, if I had been watching her do that over the last year and a half, that she had moved heaven and earth to take care of this because she thought that this might be an impediment or keep you from proposing to her, then you know we would be having maybe a different conversation. There's still a lot of big obstacles. The age is a real problem, but I might look at it differently. But the fact that she hasn't, you know, that tells you what you need to know. It's going to suck. It's going to suck to break this off after this. This is why, gentlemen, you do not cohabitate. Don't cohabitate until you're married. But it's going to suck a whole lot less than having to deal with raising children with birth defects potentially, having to shell out not only the $100,000 for her student loan, but another $150 grand for in vitro fertilization, possible. I mean, that's a very likely a scenario that you're going to find yourself in. Yeah, sometimes you just have to do the hard things. You're just so young and there's so many things going on, and I fear that you're not doing what you want to do. You're doing it out of a sense of obligation to another person that is not showing you the same honor or concern by saddling you or expecting to saddle you with that student loan debt. But ultimately, the decision's yours. We have spoken. That's it. That's what I have to say about it. Goodness. All right. Let me open up here. Let's jump in and grab a couple super chats here. Oh, it's so easy to be black and white, isn't it? I'm sorry. It is so easy to be black and white. It's so easy to make decisions for other people when I don't have a dog in the fight, isn't it? I'm in a very enviable position. I always told Mrs. W, she always said, you know, I married she goes, I always knew that when I married you, you were going to end up being a pastor or something. And I said, goodness, God forbid that. The heavy hard work that goes into pastoring a church with the old saints would just wear me down. I said, if I'm going to do that, I want to be a traveling evangelist. That way I can just roll into town, be the big noise, stir everyone up, get everybody excited, and then blow out of town to do it over again and leave the wreckage to the poor pastor to deal with. That's the way I go around here. Goodness, we have a new member, Solomon Sentinel. Shout out to you. Goodness, good way to kick it off. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have a super chat from our friend Dr. Prepper. How long have I been saying Dr. Pepper? Someone just brought it to my attention last week. You know that's not Dr. Pepper, it's Dr. Prepper. I got it. Dr. Prepper has been with us for 3 years. Truly one of the OGs. He says, comments on upcoming Trans Day of Vengeance. This Saturday being promoted online. Seems there has been a call to violence by many of these people. Yeah, it's quite ironic. I noticed that, as we know, NPR, which is the bastion of our friends in the left. Now, am I left or am I right? I'm somewhere right in the middle. If you were to ask me where I fall on the political scale, I would call myself a Christian nationalist. But I'm certainly not a Democrat, I'm certainly not a Republican, and I'm certainly not a Trumper, as I'm always confused of being. So why I'm bringing up NPR is NPR has been, goodness, I used to listen to it all the time. I used to listen to it. Mrs. W, of course, came out of Western colleges. She was raised very traditionally. But came out of Western colleges, and we butted heads a little bit on politics at first because she had that leftist mentality. Took me half a decade or so to undo all of that training and get her back to a reasonable way of thinking, which I was partially responsible for that. But I'll tell you what really changes women is when they have children. And when they have children, and they start to see the resources being extorted from their husband, i.e. taxes, social programs, all these things that they were so fond of supporting when it was easy for them to do in their college years, they take a very different view of these things when the food is being taken out of the mouth of their husband and out of their children, and they typically become quite conservative. So if you married to a liberal, there is some hope. Not always. It's a touch and go type of thing. So we used to listen to NPR when we were doing our house remodels and such. So I know all about NPR. NPR has been very anti-Second Amendment, anti-gun, but all of a sudden they are very pro-gun, and they're very active in telling the trans community, you need to arm up. You need to meet violence with violence, painting this narrative like everyone's out to get them, when I don't believe that's the case whatsoever. If you look for something hard enough, you will find it, and that's what they're doing. So very interesting all of a sudden that the left is now all about arming up, and I think that's what Dr. Prep is talking about. I haven't seen this in particular, but I can surmise what's going on from the article that I heard on NPR. So what do I think about it? I think, goodness, that's hard. The narrative has been ever since JAN 6 that be careful and don't get sucked into these pseudo rebellions. They are traps. We're being told that they're traps, and you're going to show up there, and the G-men are going to drag you into a van and take you down to Guantanamo Bay, and don't participate. And the whole tiki torch thing and all of that, don't participate. And that's the narrative from those of us, even from people that are on our side. And at first I thought, yeah, that probably makes sense. Don't get involved in that. It probably is a trap. We don't advocate violence here. We are Christian soldiers. Our war is against principalities. Our war is a spiritual war. It's not for us to be hurting anyone. I don't want to hurt anyone. So this is the narrative from the right. Don't do anything. It's all a trap. Well, how long? I start to wonder if that's not the trap. By convincing someone or painting this, scaring everyone that the big bad boogeyman's going to drag you off into a van if you ever go out and push back on something. If you push back on Trans Story Hour, if you push back on curriculums that are inappropriate according to your belief structure in schools, that they're, I wonder. So when do we just continue to let it slide and let it go down in, circling the drain and never push back and never push back and never push back? And here we have on the left, this is a escalation. We're being told, don't do anything, stay at home, wait, nothing's happened. We don't want violence here. You don't want to be the one that sticks up. You'll get nailed down. And so everyone's sitting on their sitting around waiting. Is something going to happen? Is it not going to happen? And yet the left is being actively promoting, you need to arm up. You need to meet violence with violence. Where's the violence? Where's the violence from our side? So I don't know. The only thing we can do, we're in a very enviable position. We know that if someone from the left, let's say they defend themselves in a situation, do you think that they are going to get the same shake with a liberal court system, or that we would get the same treatment that they would in the very same situation? So we find ourselves at a disadvantage. This is being, really, if we're going to zoom out to the big picture, this is being promoted, this race war, man against woman, woman against man, black against white, white against black, trans versus straight. All of this is being promoted and fueled by the powers that be to get our attention off of the things that they're doing. Look over here, rattle the can, look over here, have a false flag, have some sort of an event while they're stealing money out of your pocket or taking away your rights over here with the other hand when you're busy looking over this way. That's really what's going on. So be wise, don't buy into all of this, don't fall into a trap or anything. And of course, there's no reason to be violent, but we all we can really do, because the cards are stacked against us, is we can just protect ourselves the best we can. That's why I'm promoting being prepared, beloved. Body armor, training, the tools that you need to protect your home, situational awareness, survival kits, medical supplies in your truck, those sorts of things. We are not violent people. We don't want to instigate these things. But if violence is brought to us, there's no reason why we shouldn't. We have every God-given right to defend ourselves. So what do I think about it, Dr. Prepper? Well, I think it's reprehensible. It's terrible. I don't think anyone, I mean, we're all still Americans. And where our attention should be turned upon is those behind the scenes that are stirring up everyone. And why are they doing this? Well, because they're benefiting from it. Remember, beloved, if you're familiar with the Nuremberg trials, remember not only were the state actors and politicians tried and hung, but also the media. Also the media. They were complicit with their lies. Does our media lie today? Are you remembering what these celebrities said? Are you remembering what the politicians said? I think we should have a long memory of these things. Again, I'm not advocating violence. We shouldn't hurt anyone. But we also have every right to defend ourselves. We have a new member, Mr. Joe C. Shout out to Joe C. Joe C. has been with us. No, he's not a new member. He's been with us for 45 months. Goodness, he's almost an OG. What does it take to be an OG member? I'm going to pick an arbitrary number of 3 years. 3 years, how's that? Joe C. says to the young man in this scenario, don't get in a hurry, speaking from experience. That's the thing that we don't have, and that's very wise, what the words that Joe C. said. That's the thing that we don't have, is we don't have the counsel of gray hairs, of our grandfathers and fathers. We don't have the counsel. My generation, for example, if it wouldn't have been for my grandfather that spent time with me and taught me so many things, I wouldn't hardly know anything. I mean, to be honest, my dad was a boomer. And the boomers believed that the only thing, I think a boomer father, for the most part, the only thing that he thought, his only responsibility was is to work and to put food on the table, clothes on your back, and a roof over your head. And once that was that really is the bare minimum. If you're going to have children in a family, yes, you need to feed them, roof over their head, clothing on their back. That's the bare minimum. You've made the decision to do that. Yes, of course you're going to do that. Are we supposed to be grateful for that? We didn't ask to be brought into this family. We didn't ask to be born to the boomers. And yet they act as if when we complain, why didn't you teach me how to shave? Why didn't you teach me about relationships? Why didn't you teach me how to manage money? Why didn't you teach me how to fight or protect myself in a bad situation? And what do they say? They say, well, did we not put food a roof over your head? Did we not feed you? Is that not enough? What do you want? Why are you so ungrateful? I thought about it. You know who does that? Prison. Prison does that. Prison puts a roof over your head, feeds you, keeps you clothed. Are we? That's like the minimum standard, and the boomers want to be, they think that's all that was required of them and nothing else. So a lot of men are in that situation. How about, so I'm complaining, I was born from an intact family, but but it was also very lacking. Not to throw my dad under the bus, but that was the generation. That's the way that they were. And if they were there, many of our boomer fathers came home and turned the game on. They weren't involved with what was going on with our life, how we felt when we were growing up, and the problems we were having with girls and with school and work and such. They weren't involved. And then they wonder now why we don't have any allegiance to them. We wonder why we don't want them in our house now that their health is failing and they squandered everything that was given to them by the greatest generation, and now they're broke because of their reverse mortgages, and they've made bad decisions, and they live for themselves, and now they expect us as Gen X that they're going to come and we're going to take care of them. Not going to happen. There's a big movement of people my age that have no contact with their boomer parents for that very reason. And then the boomer parents just can't understand it. My children, they forsook me. They abandoned me. I didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, you didn't do anything. That's the problem. And where's my inheritance? Where was my land? Where was the benefits that you were given, like given a house by the greatest generation on your honeymoon to get started? Where was my house? Where was my piece of land to get a start? They were there, but they weren't. So, that's the situation for a lot of us. I'm speaking to Gen Z. Now you have a different situation. You may have had something similar to that, but it's much more likely that you didn't have a father in the house at all, because of feminism and the number of single mothers that by choice destroyed their own homes or made the bad decision of having children without a man in the house. So you are 24, 25. I don't know your family history, I don't know the background, but the fact that you're here trying to seek counsel among other men tells me that your father was either absent or he's not there for you to counsel you and give you advice in the situation, because a good father would give you he'd give you the same information. What you can't see and what we can see is that you are operating from desperation, and you need not be. You have the whole world in front of you. A tremendous trade, a tremendous income, obviously very well spoken. You can tell a lot about someone by how they write and what they say. I think you're probably a really good dude, and I just don't want you to be taken advantage of. I keep getting accused of, why are you so hard on these women? Well, it's not my job. It's not my job to look after all the women in the world. That's for their mothers to take care of. We're very different, men and women. My job here is to give information to my fellow brothers, who I think are the underdog. And Americans love an underdog, don't we? So, point I'm making with this: there's safety in a multitude of counselors, and just like what Joe said here, to the young man in this scenario, don't get in a hurry. Speaking from experience, yeah. How many men are living out marriages in quiet desperation, sexless marriages, joyless marriages, going forward, plodding forward, day in, day out, going to jobs that they hate, out of honor, the sense of self-sense of honor and commitment that they made. It's sad. Sometimes you just need to cut the dead wood loose. We have a super chat from our friend Jamie. Jamie's been with us for 2 months. Welcome, Jamie. Always good to see you here. Jamie is a faithful member. He says, I'm not trolling here, but genuinely curious. How often should a husband and wife be intimate with each other? Every day. Every day. That connection's very, very important. Every day. I mean, apart, it's a time of a month when it's not appropriate, obviously. It could be 3-4 days, a week or so. You don't have to, I wouldn't push that, but I think if a husband and wife should be intimate every day. That's what Mrs. W, Mrs. W has I would say it's a ministry. She never solicits. She's a private person, and she's a very good listener. And the fact that actually my nickname for her, I call her the counselor, because people pour their heart out to her, especially strangers. I have seen it. She comes home, every time she's out, she comes home and tells me, I can't believe what the checker at the grocery store, she was crying about a relationship, and I don't even know her. That happens to her all the time. She has a gift, a spiritual gift of being a good listener and very compassionate. And being a good listener is a rare skill. So the point being is that a lot of young girls come to her, not only young, but her age as well, seeking counsel. They look at a relationship with their children. You will know them by their fruits, right? You can see, two people that love each other. When people see Mrs. W and I together, they know that we are a team. We are of one flesh. We are of the same mind, pulling together for a common good. And it shows. We never talk bad about one another. We always support and lift one another up. We never gossip to friends. And we put each other first ahead of anyone else in this world. 100%. And that's the advice that she gives as well. How often should I be intimate with my husband? And she tells him, you should be intimate with your husband every day. It's a good question. Yeah, there's nothing, we don't need to be, there's nothing that we need to shy away from here. Jamie, you don't need to apologize for asking things like this. I'm not going to go into my specific details. It's none of your business. But we can talk about it. This is an important part. If you think that intimacy in a marriage is an important thing, then it's a very important thing. Crucial. How many men men don't talk about these sort of things typically, but women do. And so I will hear from Mrs. W, and she never tells me the names, but she'll tell me that she has friends that are only intimate with their husbands maybe once or twice a year. And I think, goodness, that to me right there would be a deal breaker. I would leave a sexless marriage like that. Easy for me to say, I think a lot of people would. The reason why they can't is because they know that it'll destroy them. If you're 45, 50, 60, and you have a house and you know that if you were to, she holds you hostage because of the way that the family court is so one-sided. We all know that if you were to try to leave a sexless marriage like that, you know that she would have you. She'd keep the home, she'd keep the kids. Many of them become very vindictive and then try to poison the kids' minds against the father. And it's just cheaper to keep her. That phrase comes out because it's got so much truth. Good question, though, Jamie. We have a question, a super chat from Acts of Random Kindness. Good to see you here, Acts. Acts writes, sounds like this guy needs to pray about this situation. God can bless her mind and womb. We can do all things through Christ. Yeah, we can do all things through Christ, but we also have these intelligent brains to make good decisions. I just reject this notion. Of course we should pray about these things. That goes without saying. But goodness, we're not just going to beat our head against the wall and go against the state of nature and things we know to be true, hoping on something that God never promised he was going to do. I don't know, man. We have to we have a role to play with this, with the decisions and the direction of our life as well. I reject this. And I don't mean to, I don't want to beat up on acts of random kindness, but I'm not saying that this is your motivation, but this is saying something like this. A lot of people will use this, a lot of so-called Christians. They get up on their sanctimonious soapbox and they say, oh, brother, you just need to pray. Just pray. You don't have to do anything, just pray. No. Yes, we have to pray, but we also have to do things. What if Noah would have just prayed that the flood, his family would have been saved through the flood? Just prayed, and when the rain came, just pray that God would miraculously make a boat. No. What did God instruct him to do? He made him build that boat. He had to get up and go through the sweat of 40 years of building with his sons and build that mighty ark, that boat, to save his family. That is a perfect example of God cooperating with his children to get them to a common place. Now, yes, of course miracles could happen. Of course these things can happen. But we also need to be somewhat proactive. We have to make good decisions. We have to be as harmless as doves and wise as serpents. I don't like this. It smacks of being lazy and not taking accountability. Oh, we'll just pray about it. We'll just put it all on God. We have no responsibility whatsoever. We'll just enter into a marriage that we know is going to hobble us financially, that is going to be high-risk pregnancy from a woman that has not shown very good decision-making, etc. We just ignore every single red flag, just turn a blind eye. We just need to pray. We just need to pray. I don't think so. I don't want to be irreverent here. And I 1,000% believe in the power of prayer, but also you've got to use your brain. You got to be smart about things as well. We have a responsibility. So, and I'm not implying this upon you, Acts. You just happen to it's a shotgun blast to those lazy Christians that just don't ever do anything, don't ever take any responsibility, putting all of their laziness and their lack of being intelligent and thinking about things and solving problems, put all that on God so they don't have to do anything. And I kind of reject that. So I don't mean to get you caught up in the blast of that. As I don't want to imply that was your motivation. Goodness, isn't it so nice and easy to be black and white? My sister levels this accusation upon me. But there's got to be some standards, beloved. Goodness. Not everything is squishy. Not in my book, anyway. We have Mr. Overton has a super chat. Over says, in fairness to her, you need to decide and act now. Yeah, that's a very good point, Overton. This is probably drug on too long. You need to sleep on this, digest the information that you received here. Look at the men when faced with the story that I painted out, and it's the only story I have. I shared with them what I have, and realize that there's safety in numbers. That these men are probably they don't have a dog in the fight. They're probably able to look at it very objectively, and it was nearly unanimous if it wasn't. Once you make that decision, sleep on it. Be decisive. Be decisive. It's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. But I will be willing to bet when the dust is settled and you're sitting in solitude with peace and all these opportunities in front of you, you're going to be able to see things a lot more clearly. And you're going to come back and you're going to thank us and the middlemen here for helping you to not make a terrible mistake. Good point, Mr. Overton. Decide and act now. Very good advice. We have a super chat, and it's cruel to do otherwise. You need to end it. You need to either, as you said, he said, I either need to paint or get off the ladder. And that's true. You know what you need to do. We have a member message from the Stoic Ant. Shout out to the Stoic Ant. He's been a member with us for a month. He says, Cody, would you be able to recommend a list of prepping books to purchase, i.e. reference-style medical books, water filtration, gardening? Yeah, I have, let me see if I have them here. The first book, the medical book that I like is Where There Are No Gardens. Gardens, goodness. Where There Are No Doctors. I'll be pulling from my personal library here. Where There Are No Doctors, excuse me. Where There Are No Doctors is a book right here. Proho, screenshot this, open up a tab, open up a window, go on Amazon and order this. If you want to wait and let me grift with an affiliate link, I will attach it to this video as soon as we're done with here. You can go check it out that way, and I'll make $1. Where There Are No Doctors is a manual that was written for people living in remote locations. This is very commonly used for missionaries. And it says, it is what it says, where there are no doctors. All of the problems that you're going to run into, how to deal with them. Abscessed tooth, dental emergencies, hernias, childbirth, how to set broken legs. I mean, personal cleaning and hygiene. I'm just going to read a couple things. Medicinal medicines, how to deal with children that are not thriving, scorpion stings, how to deal with strains and sprains, how to make a litter and deal with badly injured people. I mean, heat exhaustion, first aid, feeding through the veins, etc., etc., etc. And it's very well illustrated. There are pictures, illustrations, pretty much hand-drawn on every single page. There's a little sample in the back, which are helpful as well. This would be a very valuable book. This would be number one on my list. I would get this one. Another one that's kind of fun that I recently came across is No Grid Survival Projects. This is a very well-written book as well. I've done a few projects out of here. And these are kind of fun things. This is a relatively new book, but DIY bicycle generator. Right there. With illustrations, tool lists, everything. It seems very, I've got several books or bookmarks in here of different projects that I'm interested in trying. But you'd be able to build a generator, and it's not pie in the sky stuff. It's not a lot of exotic materials and expensive things. It's usually things you could scrounge around the house or around the neighborhood. How to build a hydroelectric generator, making a water wheel. How to make solar panels. How to turn a car CB into a powerful transmitter. That sort of thing. Very well researched, lots of pictures, everything you need to know. It gives difficulty ratings, what it's going to cost roughly. I like this book a lot. This would be a really good one as well. Also, it doesn't have to be this one, but if you live in an area where it's forested, you'll have to kind of tailor survival books and such towards your climate. Whether you're a Minnesota man or you're down in Death Valley, it's going to be very different skill set, so understand that. But there's just a lot, I don't know where you're coming from, what your background is, but camping and those sort of things, those should all be practiced. But surviving the great outdoors is a really, really good book if you want to cover basic shelter making, how to set up a tent, how to cross a stream safely, mountaineering basics, how to deal with snow blindness. I'm just reading off a couple topics in here to give you a flavor of what we're looking at here. This is going to be things from away from the home. So kind of just three ideas, but the Where There Are No Doctors is a big one. I'll put links to these books in the subject heading after this is over. I'll set them right here so I don't remember. That's a good question. Good question. Good question. We have a member message from K Bowers 8111. Welcome and shout out to you, who writes, he's been with us for 4 months. Let's not overlook that. Sent you a backpack armor hybrid idea yesterday. I saw that, K Bowers. I didn't understand what you were saying. So what K Bowers is, I believe he said he was an engineering student. And he had the idea, talking about our armor proposal to Premier, was the backpack. You wore a backpack, right? But the body armor was sandwiched in panels along the back that you could pull loose from Velcro and flop over your head the front panel and still wear the backpack so that you'd have front protection. So it was covert. So that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's not the direction that we're going. That would be in addition to where we're going. Where we're going, I think, is what the middleman and I have kind of come up with, is the lightest of lightweight things. So maybe, I'm not going to rule anything out. I will bring that to the discussion as well. That could be, there's no reason why we have to stop at one. Thank you, Kay Bowers, for that. And we have a new member, Evil Sage. Welcome. Welcome, Evil Sage. Our friend Nui 2 has been with us for 52 months. Nui he may have been here only 52 months, but he is definitely an OG. Well, that's 52 months. Of course, that's 36 months is OG. He's way beyond that. Sorry, I don't mean to disrespect. Thanks for everything you do. Well, thank you for your faithfulness. It's always gives me the fizz to see your name in the comments. Thank you, Nui. We have a super chat from Solomon Sentinel. Welcome, and new member. Goodness, happy to have you here. Solomon Sentinel, new member. Thank you for the super chat. Welcome. And Mr. Evan Roach, he's been with us for a month. Evan writes, hey, Cody, I left my strict Mormon boomer parents behind 5 to 6 years ago and aren't looking back. I miss my siblings, but it's worth protecting my family. Yeah, I understand, man. I'm not going to get into my own personal family dynamics, but I can relate. I understand. As hard and unnatural as that is, the boomers, our boomer parents, I don't know why they were the way they were. I'm so grateful now, I can see so clearly. I'm so grateful now to have had my grandfather, which came from the different generation, the greatest generation. He was not a boomer. He was not like a boomer at all. He was just the opposite. Instead of being selfish, he was selfless. He was the best man I ever knew, and he had no vices. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine an honest man with no vices? I don't know that person today. Do you know any? I feel for you, Evan. Yeah, you have to do it. You have to do it. And I know exactly what you're talking about, that especially these boomer parents can be so toxic. Look at the language of the left, how it works its way into our language, even though when you fight against it. I need to get that out of my vocabulary. But they're just so destructive, and they don't. I could even put up with someone not bringing benefit, but when they bring chaos and they undermine your family and what you're trying to do and your authority, then they've got to go. And we're on safe biblical ground with that. We're told to respect our parents. That's a commandment. But we're not told to be whipping posts for our parents and to have to endure a lifetime of abuse and disrespect. There comes a time when you become your own man, and as hard, and I'll tell you, I'd be willing to bet. Evan has bent over backwards, that has endured and sucked it up and turned the other cheek 100,000 times until it gets to the point where you see that there's never going to be any reformation, there's never going to be any change, and you have to let it go. And man, what a relief, what a burden off of your shoulders that can be. Shout out to Evan Roach, man. That's a tough thing to have to do, but they didn't give us any choice. We have a super chat from Mr. Celtic Envy, another one. He writes, something told me to watch you live around the time you talked about fasting, and I thought that would be easy. I could fast a whole day and whatever, but it's been a struggle, and it was God's way of calling me back. Speaking of which, we need to pick a day of fasting. We have to pick a day this week. I'm going to announce it tomorrow. I'll announce it tomorrow. I'm going to do that as well. Goodness, I completely forgot about that. I got so many plates spinning around here right now. I have all these great ideas, and actually following through on them is not my strong suit. Mrs. W usually is there to pick up the slack for me, but she's super involved in Jack's debate right now and raising the sweet loaf, so I need to step up my game a little bit. But yeah, that's true. That's true. Stay with us, Celtic. We will be in the trenches with you. I think it'll be helpful to me knowing that, the misery loves company, as I'm so fond of saying. It will help knowing that that we're helping one another. We'll be praying for each other, and it will be better. It's hard to do. And don't take it to an extreme. There's no obligation here. When we pick that date, you can choose if you want to do it for 24 hours, if you want to do it for 12 hours, if you want to miss one meal. There's a benefit in that as well. Know your body. There's no reason to go crazy and push yourself to an extreme. If you become uncomfortable and it's becoming a problem for you, why deal with a headache? Start small and you can build up from there. I don't want you fainting on your way to work. Goodness. Hang in there, Celtic Envy. Stay here with us, and we'll be doing this together. WRC, member with us for 2 years. WRC says, from Evan Roach, can we get sevens for Mrs. W being the best advocate for men out there? She is all. You have no idea how true what you just said is. Mrs. W, I don't want to get into her business too much, and I forget that this is not just a small, intimate group, and everything that I say on here gets out to my family. Literally, I forget that. I forget the volume of people that we're reaching here. I'm actually, when I'm looking into the camera, I'm just looking, I feel like I'm just sitting here talking to our small but mighty group here. How many are there? 500 of us here? Our group here, but it goes bigger than that, so I have to be careful about that. But one thing Mrs. W does is that she is a huge advocate of men. I know of multiple occasions where men have, or women that she has known for a long, long time have gotten frustrated. You know, the girls get together to meet for a different time, for different, you know, whatever, for book club or such, will meet, and they'll get frustrated with their husbands, and they start voicing this, and then the other women pile on, and pretty soon the whole thing is about dumping on this bad man for whatever, you know, whether or not he's bad is open to debate, I'm sure. And she never participates in that. She always, always, always defaults on the side, well, what's his gripe? You know, are you perfect? You know, and I admire that about her. Yeah, she absolutely is. She sees the female nature. She knows. We have a super chat from Looper RX. Shout out to Looper. Thank you. Looper says, be sure of your woman and don't marry a woman over 30 or with advanced degrees, speaking from experience. Yeah, advanced degrees is another huge problem. See, women make the mistake of believing that we put value on their careers, their advanced education, et cetera, that makes them more of a good pick or a high value woman, when that's actually the opposite. We do not, as men, that means nothing. I mean, tell me this. Let's say that you have a master's degree, right? And you meet love at first sight. You just see her. She's absolutely beautiful, perfect body, bubbly, happy, great personality, willing to do anything, just the ultimate, just everything you've wanted, right? And she has a high school education. Are you going to think, well, I don't know, you know? Of course you're not. For us, they could be a Hooters girl, and we don't even mind that. You know, we don't care about that whatsoever. See, that's women projecting what they want upon us. They think they need that. They want. Typically, women want to marry up. They want their man to be stronger, bigger, taller, make more money, more intelligent. They want that's what they want. They don't date down. We will date down. They will not date down. So what they're doing, you know, like the majority of college graduates are female right now. And they're just, women, most of them, in my experience, they kind of operate on the hive mind. You know, they're not individual thinkers near as much as men are. If all the women are doing this and all the women are telling them that this needs to be done, that's what they do. They follow suit. They follow the hive mind. And the hive mind is telling them right now, get a career, forsake motherhood, you don't want anyone keeping you down. And so it's really a cruel, cruel trick that's being played upon them, because they're losing their opportunity. They're wasting the years where they're most valuable, because we value women as what? By their beauty and fertility and youth. That's what gives women the great value. No one wants an old woman. No one wants a post-wall woman. So they're giving this the best that they have to give. They're giving this up to Chad in college, and then they're expecting us, after all the goods have been used up, and they have all this baggage and kids from other men. They're expecting us to move right in there and just be happy with what they're offering. We're not happy with that. We don't want that. What they had to offer, they wasted, they squandered, and now it's our fault. Where did all the good men go? Well, how many proposals did you receive from good men in college? How many did you turn down because they weren't Chad, or because they hadn't yet made something of their lives? Because what man at 24, 25 has anything? He's in a building stage. Oh, everything is so messed up, beloved. But you're right. Looper says, be sure of your woman and don't marry women over 30, advanced degrees. The problem with the women getting the advanced degrees is, if they want to get an advanced degree, that's just fine. I'm not saying women should be home barefoot and pregnant. They're free to do what they want. What I'm just pointing out is, if you do this, there's going to be consequences. So if you get an advanced degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a PhD, now that puts you in a very elite group of people, a very small group of people compared to society as a whole. And when you're unwilling to date down, that means your pool of eligible people are very small now. Because if you have a bachelor's or a master's degree, it's very unlikely that you're going to go down and marry a dude that's working blue collar with a high school or a high school dropout. It's very unlikely. I mean, that's the reality of it. So even though he's a good guy and would be a wonderful father and a wonderful husband and take care of you and provide for you the things you need, you're never going to know that because you've ruled him out because he doesn't have an advanced degree. So they cut their own throats. And now they're advanced in age. They've been in school for 7, 8, 9 years. Now they're coming up in their 30s. They're high-risk pregnancy. The high-value, good, super good quality men, they've moved on. They married someone in college at 23, 24, and they have 3, 4 kids. And that opportunity's been missed and it's lost. And now they're angry and bitter, and it's our fault. When their mothers they should be blaming their mothers. Their mothers told them, their friends told them, oh, don't settle down. You know, you have so much ahead of you. Get your career established, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Why do you think we have a pandemic of Karens? Why all of a sudden are there Karens everywhere? They're on all of the TikTok and YouTube shorts, and they're everywhere. We run into Karens now. They're ubiquitous. Karens are women that bought into the lie of feminism, that squandered their fertility, youth, and beauty, and missed the opportunity, and now are post-wall with no chance of a high-value man, with no chance of having a family of their own, and they are pissed, and they're mad at you. Where did all the good men go? Yeah. Accountability for these women is like their kryptonite. They can't be accountable. They can never look inward and see, you know what, I made some bad decisions. And now I'm 38. I don't have a husband. I don't have any, I've lost my opportunity of having my own children. And what do I have to look forward to? 40, 45 years of aging and being alone with no husband, no mate, no family, but maybe wine, pets, and online dating of men that are just going to use them and throw them out. It's sad. I don't like it. But that's the lie. That's the lie that feminism tells them that ultimately destroys them. We have a super chat from Captain Cobb. Shout out to you, Captain. Captain writes, I appreciate you, Mrs. W., Mr. W, for always being straight up. Well, I appreciate that too. We got to call it like it is. You know, I don't. There's everything's so squishy, and there's so much BS in the world. I'm so over it. I just want straight talk. I just want to hear it like it is. I don't care if it hurts my feelings. Just tell me how it is. Enough feelings. Thank you, Captain Cobb. We have a new member message from WRC. Shout out to you, WRC. WRC writes, he's been with us for 32 months. At 36, you'll be OG. Cody, I think Stubby is the man, and I wanted everyone to know it. Yeah, Stubby is the man. We have some good men here. Some very good men here. Thank you, WRC. Good comment. We have a super chat from Isaac Leonard. Welcome, Isaac. Glad to see you here. Isaac says, the backpack with flip over plate was my email. I know it's a good idea because my girlfriend says she used, yeah, of course. And I know I'm handsome because my mother tells me I am. No, I think it is a good idea. I saw it. I am going to go over, I've got a little video from Overton. He did a little mock-up of what we're looking at with cardboard, so I'll have that. I'll look at your backpack, and we'll have all that in the packet if and when I talk to them. Mr. Mark Davis, welcome. Thank you. Thank you for your generosity, Mr. Davis. We have a super chat from our friend, Mr. Jason Barr. Jason Barr has been with us for 2 years, but he is definitely an OG. God was gracious. I married the first girl I ever dated. Turned out to be a dream woman. Dated 4 months, engaged 6 months, married 14 years. Yeah, that can happen too. You know, and I'll tell you, the same thing happened to me. I got what I didn't deserve. I can relate to what Jason's talking about. Jason, he probably deserved what he got, but I got really, really lucky. And that's because I really attribute the union, the chance meeting of Miss, and I work out a little bit. The whole thing takes about an hour or so. Well, I was not expecting, she always makes me breakfast. She makes me all my meals. I wasn't expecting it this morning because she had an appointment to go into town. And I came out of there at 10 o'clock and walked right out to a hot, and she wasn't even there. I don't even know how she did it. She timed it absolutely perfectly. Walked out to a big old plate full of scrambled eggs with cheese, just the way I like them, my favorite toast, jam, green drink, fresh bacon, butter, napkin, the whole thing, sat down there. Man, way to a man's heart. The way to a man's heart. I think the world of that woman. Shout out to Mrs. W. And shout out to Evil Sage, our new member. Welcome, and thank you for your generosity. Another comment from Mr. Evil Sage. Evil Sage writes, hope Cody is doing okay. I chose this name back when I was still a pagan. Yeah, I was, I think, did I tell you to change your name? Now it serves as a reminder of what I left behind for Jesus. It's much harder as an adult than what I remember as a child. Yeah, I can get with that. Yeah, no, I carry some of those mementos as well, some of those scars and memories of the hardship of life when you aren't walking with God. I can respect that, man. Yep. We'll call it your hair shirt. You know what a hair shirt is? Our Catholic friends, many of them believe that if they can pay a penance, abuse the flesh in some way, that it gives them merit with God. I don't know about all of that. But one thing that they used to do was wear a hair shirt. You ever heard of a hair shirt? So if they felt like they needed to pay a penance, or a corrupt and evil pope wanted to make someone grovel, he could order this as well. They would put on the hair shirt. Now the hair shirt was woven out of some sort of animal hair that was exceedingly scratchy and uncomfortable. I've read that it was often infested with fleas and lice that would constantly bite the flesh of the wearer, and it was just a general uncomfortable thing to wear, a hair shirt. So when you hear someone refer to, this is my hair shirt, or this is my cross to bear, you kind of know what that is. So Evil Sage, that's his hair shirt. Shout out to Evil Sage, and for coming out of that. Goodness, can you imagine how happy you're going to be when you realize when that day you're in the kingdom, reunited with your Father who loves you. What a bullet you dodged. You came out of that evil system that would have condemned you, and what a loss. What a loss. Right out of the frying pan and the fire. We have a super chat and new member from Be Strong 1. Shout out to you, Be Strong. Thank you. Thank you for your generosity. He writes, Cody, thank you for this wonderful, one-of-a-kind content. I would like you to have one of my Knight's buffer tubes to complete your Mark 18. Now, you're giving me the fizz, Be Strong. That's the best news that I've received all morning. I've wanted one. Yes, I could order one. I could go find one if I wanted to dedicate myself to it, but I've been thinking, I got so many things going on. We're trying to, put something together here and develop properties for all the things we want to do. And I have a perfectly fine buffer tube, and to buy another one would just be irresponsible. But I will accept that generous gift because I really want one. I'll tell you what, Be Strong. If you want to send that, contact me, Cody at Wranglerstar.com. I will do a video for you of the whole thing. It'll be a members only. We'll put it up here. Maybe we'll even do a live stream. We'll do maybe a live stream of Fulfilling a Dream where I will be finally putting the capstone of perfection on my Mark 18. The only thing that I want for it. Everything is exactly how I want it, except for that one thing. It bothers me to no end. Every time I look at it, I think, I gotta get that Knight's Armament buffer tube. I will be so happy. I mean, I have the SOP mod stock, and the LMT mod stock too. I don't have the B5 one. I've got the right one. The only other thing that is somewhat questionable, but I can live with it, I've already gotten over it, is I don't have the 4-prong Surefire flash hider. But I have the 3-prong, but I'm okay with it. That is not an issue, really. The buffer tube is an issue. Thank you for that. Man, that's awesome. I will do that for you, Be Strong, and we'll have to make sure we do that at a time where you'll be available as well. And we'll pull that out there, and we will talk all about how awesome KAC is and LMT, and I'll share the history of the Mark 18 and how it was developed by the Crane Company and the proper ammunition and this, oh goodness, the 77 grain gas port sizes. Man, I know all about the Mark 18. It's a personal hobby of mine. It sounds like Be Strong, he knows too. Be Strong is a man after my own heart. He understands my pain of looking at that Geisley buffer tube on that Mark 18. It just doesn't fit, man. It just does not fit. It's just not proper. And the fact that you have more than one, that you were willing to offer one of your many, that says a lot about, that says a lot about Be Strong One. He's a man of taste and culture, no doubt, no doubt. Sometimes you just want what you want. Goodness, what a great live stream. I really have enjoyed this. Now, one thing that we'll close with this. Some folks yesterday were saying, the middleman told me this morning that there were about 30 of you that were talking or asking about, could we move the live stream to 12:30 a little bit later? Now, I don't know what's behind that or why, but I heard you. And so I thought, well, we could do that. So I contacted the middlemen this morning and I said, what do you think about starting the live stream at 12:30? And they said, yeah, a lot of folks were asking about that. It's hard to accommodate everyone's schedule. So, that doesn't really make that much difference to me. And then in our conversation, we were talking about, would it be better to have the live stream? Would you guys rather have the live stream at noon, at lunchtime? Or would you rather have something in the evening after work? So what that would mean, to try to accommodate the majority of people, we have to deal with a 3-hour time zone. East Coast man is three hours ahead of us, right? The West Coast man is typically getting home at about 5:30 or so, as an average. But as a former blue-collar man myself, the programs that I used to really enjoy listening to a program in the car. So I wouldn't be opposed to that. So if West Coast man, we may be able to start a little bit early if he's driving home, because he can listen on the drive home as well. And then that would still be 5, We don't want East Coast man being up too late until 10 or so. So I don't know. So I'm going to put a poll up, throw up what time you think would be good if we were going to do an evening time. And maybe we could even do that. Maybe we could try it and see if that would be something that we'd be more enjoy it. I wonder, as someone who has grown up with talk radio and listened to it all my life from the time I was a kid, and nighttime shows, I've always kind of enjoyed the nighttime shows more. It seemed like it was maybe a little bit more chill towards the end of the day, where you had a little bit more time to unwind. You didn't have so many things going on during the day that you had to focus on with your mind. And it may be a better time to do it in the evening. I don't know. So what I thought I'd do is I'll put a poll up on the channel, and I'll put some times on there. It'll just be interesting to see. So go over there and vote for that, and tell me what you think. I will put a link to these books here as well. I'll throw that up on here as soon as that goes live this afternoon. So if you want to take a look at those. We'll close with our friend Gamer Dave. Shout out to Gamer Dave. Good to see you back. Who writes, do you miss your Benchmade 945? It looked great. I've never had have I had a 945? I don't think I've ever had a 945. If you're referring to 940, I have a 940. I did find it. Actually, do you know what I've been carrying of late? I've been carrying either the 940, or I've been carrying I really like that Microtech. I like the Microtech. The Microtech, I've actually been carrying that more with a pocket clip. because that's not a knife that you could take the pocket clip off, or it's not really designed for that. It kind of has to be in there as part of the design. But it's my Sunday knife. It's my fancy knife. I'm definitely not putting the Microtech in my pocket and going out traipsing around outside. It's only for going to the coffee shop or walking around the house. I keep pretty close tabs on that. Thank you, Gamer Dave. We have a super chat, final super chat from Papa Mac and brand new member. You get to enjoy upgrading the Mark 18. I will be doing that. I'll look forward to that. I need to do an update. I have it kind of finalized where it's in its final rendition and everything is just sweet as a nut, apart from that buffer tube. Thank you for providing this forum and discussing advice and camaraderie. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. This is a space for us, gentlemen. This is the best we can come up with, but it's not half bad. Thank you, beloved. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for the super chat. Special shout out to the middlemen for making this possible, for doing the tireless, ungrateful, unthankful work in the on the back end. And a little message to the middlemen: your packages are out today. Mr. Jiraiya and I went through everything. We got it all boxed up, and they will be shipping today. So look for that stuff. That should be arriving to you maybe Friday or Saturday. So, all right. Thank you, beloved. Keep us in your prayers. Pray for my family, if you would. I appreciate that. We pray for you constantly, and we'll see you guys all on, Lord willing, tomorrow's stream.